Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
welcome to the Movie Wire.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We've got a big show this week with 3 new movies to review, with 2 playing in theaters and 1 now available to stream. This week on the show, Dead is Just a Word in Black Phone 2. Need a miracle? Keanu Reeves and Angel Wings may be the answer in Good Fortune. And finally, the documentary that will make you cry this week in the life and legacy of funny man John Candy in the Prime Video exclusive John Candy, I Like Me. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows, what? A roar and a burst of flame. The Movie Wire podcast.
There it is.
You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
A well-meaning but rather inept angel named Gabriel meddles in the lives of a struggling gig worker and wealthy venture capitalist. Keanu Reeves is a comedic, good-looking angel in Good Fortune.
My name is Gabriel. I'm an angel. I'm here to save you.
What? Who the fuck are you?
I'm an angel. See the wings? I know all about you. I know you lost your job. I know you're living in your car.
I did everything I was supposed to do and nothing's working out.
I'm not really supposed to be doing this. I'm normally only in charge of saving people from texting and driving.
Wait, you're telling me I have a budget guardian angel?
Kinda.
My life is just in the service of people like Jeff.
Arge, I'm Jeff, a pledge.
The people who actually get to live.
Fix my cold plunge. Get a disco floor for my party and find a shaman to take me on an ayahuasca journey.
Maybe I can show you that that life is not all it's cracked up to be. You wanted to have wealth and success?
Now look at you.
Jeff's life is now your life.
What happened to Jeff?
Is there any update on the Huevos Rancheros for Alex?
He has your life.
Gabriel, why did you do this?
I tried to show him that wealth wouldn't solve all his problems.
And?
It seems to have solved most of his problems.
You gotta switch back, man.
So what, I just go back to living in my car?
You lived in your car?
Yes, Jeff, I did. Why do you think an angel got involved? Because I had too many roommates? Why don't you go tough it out for a few days?
You think because I'm a tech bro, I can't live your life for a little while? I came from nothing. I'm self-made.
What did your parents do?
My father was an orthopedic surgeon. This is too hard. How do people do this without just being miserable and angry all the time?
You're up here in this huge house. I'm fighting just to get by.
You'll never believe me, but I've been there.
Get me God. I want a meeting with God. God! It's Jeff! What has happened to you, Gabriel? You're smoking cigarettes now?
Leave me alone, Jeff. I like it. It's all I have.
Can you fly?
My wings are too small.
Not the size of the wing.
Actually, it is.
Oh, that's too bad.
Good Fortune is a brave movie to attempt a comedic genre. Even though the overlaying premise sets the scene for comedy, our actual cast sets the scene for comedy. But the messaging is so heavy-handed and could feel too real to bring out some emotions of relatability and even anger that potentially drown out the feel-good laughs, especially when some use comedy to escape the topics it presents. Good Fortune was written, directed, and stars Aziz Ansari. Now, Ansari we haven't heard or seen much since his 2018 sexual misconduct allegations, and when it comes to this film, with his time away, we can almost tell that he got to see the world in a wider scope, to tell a message of the rich versus the poor, those that are struggling to spend all their time working just to survive without the gift of enjoying life. As we get an example in a memorable scene of our guardian angel Gabriel, played by Keanu Reeves, who is working as a dishwasher after losing his wings that I'll get into in just a second, where Gabriel gets his first paycheck, in which he states that there is something wrong with his check, where he doesn't know why others are taking his money like taxes or Social Security. And he thought if you worked, you would just have enough for stuff like tacos or chicken nuggies. Now, Gabriel is a guardian angel whose sole job is to save lives from texting and driving. He starts to realize that he wants more. This is validated when he attends a guardian angel meeting, led by head angel Martha, played by Sandra Oh. Gabriel hears our guardian angel speak about having his clients find their meaning in life. This gives Gabriel the temptation to try and save Arj, played here again by Aziz Ansari, who did all the right things growing up, going to school, studying, keeping it clean, to end up just doing DoorDash services or odd jobs, including being hired to clean a billionaire's garage. And that billionaire is Jeff, played by Seth Rogen. Gabriel's solution and instinct says for Arj to realize the gift of his life is to switch bodies with Jeff, so he can realize that money isn't everything. Of course, this is supposed to lead to the potential of comedy situations, especially with Gabriel not knowing anything about the real world and acts like a simple-minded child, as we get numerous examples of Gabriel's childlike innocence as he loses his wings because of the body switch, which is one of the biggest holes of the movie. And I don't know, maybe it's a religious thing, I'm not religious, but if Gabriel's an angel, wasn't he once human? Or if he is observing humans all the time, wouldn't he grasp some idea of the real world? So the motivation of Gabriel is flawed. Gabriel lacks any basic understanding of the real world, which is hard to swallow. But at the same time, with Keanu Reeves' performance, I didn't really fucking care. Reeves is funny here in a Keanu Reeves kind of way. A charm and on-screen likability, almost a true believable sweetness to the character. It is hard to be mad at this character for all his flaws. It's like a little puppy dog that chews up your shoes and then just gives you those puppy dog eyes. But between the balance of comedy, drama, heavy topics, characters, subplots, etc., the movie visually feels like a mess on what it wants to be. It's like watching a cinematic Yahtzee game where we are shaking the dice and just throwing it onto the table and keeping score of who's winning. Drama or comedy. Ansari's writing isn't a strong point here because this is where we can tell he has bursts of ideas during a long span of writing the screenplay, where he forgot what he was leading up to. We can almost see the mood he was in when writing this screenplay, from sadness to anger to anxiety to humor on a good day. There's a lot of feelings that are happening at sporadic moments here. Most of the screen time, the film wants the audience to take in the question of, does money buy you happiness? And most of the movie proves this to be true. We see Arj living the good life and Jeff struggling to make ends meet in Arj's old life. Then by the time we get to the climax, he spends little time explaining why money doesn't buy happiness, but rather focuses on the struggle and how it sucks to be poor. So the messaging is convoluted and it goes from money does equal happiness to a focus on those that are struggling. You have very little hope, or at least a feeling of hope. It becomes almost a very negative movie. But what coincides that is our cast chemistry, except when Keanu Reeves appears on screen dancing or eating. Keanu Reeves is the interrupter here. When things get too sad or depressing or the tone kind of goes limp, Keanu Reeves is in a scene shoving food in his face and being adorable. We see Reeves at his happiest as a mortal when he's eating a burger, chicken nuggies, or his favorite tacos. And this does leave us with some truly memorable and sweet, funny scenes. To the absolute point when Keanu Reeves says chicken nuggies, I really want this as a ringtone. Now, as I said earlier, there is a saving grace in this movie where the movie does become forgivable and almost should have pivoted from Ansari's writing is building the movie on the chemistry between Rogen, Ansari, and Reeves. Some of the really feel-good moments here are when these three are together and could have been a completely different movie if only introduced earlier in the film with some situational events bouncing off of that. Now, with everything shoved into this movie and all the topics it covers, this is a movie that did need to be at least 20 to 30 minutes more to pace itself out. Ensure the balance of comedy, drama, and messaging is spread out in the runtime. And I know, this is a dangerous thing for comedy to have a 2-hour runtime, but the thing is, this isn't just a comedy. It's more of a dramedy, and it needed more runtime to not feel like the subplots were vomited all over the floor. But with that said, Good Fortune isn't a bad movie. In entertainment value, it has enough moments of fun. It has moments that will make you smile. And that's due to the thanks to the performances, not necessarily Ansari's writing or direction, because we can see that Ansari can't even organize his own thoughts on screen. Good Fortune has a lot of flaws, a lot of pacing issues, a lot of tonal issues, a lot of feeling issues, but it also has equal parts fun. This is one of those rare movies that the performances and chemistry ensure we overlook the flaws and pure likability of the characters we see on screen. And for me, that's just enough for a slight recommendation. I'm giving Good Fortune 3 stars.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
The task is simple. Walk or die in the Stephen King adaptation of The Long Walk. That was pretty thrilling for a movie about walking. All's fair when love is war in The Roses, which call me a romantic, but nothing makes me appreciate relationships more than watching other relationships fight, receiving 3.5 stars. Who can you trust when everyone is a stranger? You know, my parents told me never to talk to strangers, but they should have fucking told me not to watch strangers to prepare me for this damn movie that received half a star. It was supposed to be fun, but then 2 pregnant women later in the threesome. And surprise, it's getting threesome stars. I mean 3 stars. Friday is about to get freaky. Again, in Freakier Friday. The threesome was freakier. Freakier Friday received 1.5 stars. The case that ended it all in The Conjuring Last Rites, which this is the Avengers Endgame for Conjuring fans that satisfies, receiving 3 stars. Greatness demands sacrifice in Him, in which that must mean everybody that went to go see him vomits greatness for sacrificing their time for one of the worst movies of the year, receiving half a star. Prepare for launch and welcome to the family in the Fantastic Four that, even with flaws, was a visual spectacle that didn't just focus on our characters looking cool, but the movie in its entirety, receiving 3 stars. No callers are identified, no conversations are recorded, no phone records are kept. Now speak clearly, and when you are finished, say, go ahead. In Relay, that in my review I relayed 2 stars. Go ahead. Welcome to the New West in Americana that received 2 stars. 3 stars for Sydney Sweeney's Jeans. Last night at 2:17 a.m., every child star from Mrs. Gandy's class woke up, got out of bed, went downstairs, opened the front door, walked into the dark, and never came back. In one of the best horror movies of the year, in Weapons, that received 3.5 stars. The Truth is Messy Business and Ethan Cohen's Honey Don't, that had a great premise and an idea of tone, but made me say by the end, Ethan Cohen, please honey don't, receiving 2.5 stars. Justice Makes It Wet, in the remake to the Leslie Nielsen classic, The Naked Gun, which rapid fires gags with only a 50% success, receiving 2.5 stars. Hutch is back and nobody ruins his vacation in Nobody 2, which is an unnecessary sequel, but still a lot of fun, seeing 2 unexpected action stars like Christopher Lloyd fire a machine gun and Bob Odenkirk kick some ass, receiving 3 stars. Karma is a killer, and I know what you did last summer. Overacted, recycle, and brings nothing new to the table except 1.5 stars. Love is hard and breakups are harder, especially when an unnatural force has a plan to keep them together, in Together, which will make your date stop holding your hand in the movie, but worth it, receiving 3 stars. Brad Pitt goes vroom vroom in F1 the movie. That was an adrenaline run, especially given the runtime, and it's a feast for the senses, receiving 3.5 stars. Double the bad and double the fun. I don't know about that one. In The Bad Guys 2, which was just too much, receiving 2.5 stars. The Universe Called. The The wrong number, Disney Pixar's Elio, which is a much better animated movie than The Bad Guys 2, receiving 3.5 stars. And another movie that's still not as good as Elio, Smurf It Up and Get the Search Party Started in Smurfs, which Smurfin' sucked, receiving 2 stars. And finally, every choice, every mission has led to this, in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which was a clever way to close out the series, but will end with the same feeling as the rest of just blending together, but still a fun-in-the-moment ride, receiving 3 stars. Make sure you check out those reviews of my previous episode, and while you do, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe, and please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out one of the podcasts that are part of my weekly listening routines. They add some sugar, they add some spice, talking about baking and murders in the Sugar Coated Murders podcast. That link to that show will be in the description of this episode, but also they have released a new book called Deadly Route, and this is a book not to miss, especially if you've read their previous book, Click, Click, Click. That book is available on Amazon right now. Make sure you pick it up. The link to that will, again, be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from Karen and Ann over the Sugar Coated Murders podcast now.
Hey y'all, this is Karen Devaney from the Sugar Coated Murder Podcast. Join me and my sister Ann Varner for a new true crime experience. If you are obsessed with cooking shows and have a curious passion for murder cases, then find us on any of your favorite listening apps. Stay sweet.
As Finn, now 17, struggles with life after his captivity, his sister begins receiving calls in her dreams from the Black Phone and seeing disturbing visions of 3 boys being stalked at a winter camp known as Alpine Lake. Has our grabber returned, or is it something more supernatural in The Black Phone 2?
I had a bad dream.
Hello, Finny. Did you think our story was over? You're dead. You, of all people, know that dead is just a word. He's here. Vengeance is mine.
When a sequel to The Black Phone was announced, I was curious how they were going to pull this off without using a cliche copycat killer or a cliche return of our original grabber in a far-fetched way. Instead, we get another formula that seems oh too familiar. The Black Phone 2 goes full Nightmare on Elm Street with our original grabber character, once again here played by Ethan Hawke, which was a fantastic performance in the original. And here, it is no different, but rather, since his face is covered most of the entire runtime with some more physical scenes, Ethan Hawke actually amplifies his performance because he has to. This is a movie that relies and banks on his body language, and this adds a new level of threat given he is also not in control in this intimate setting, but rather a wide-open winter setting. And this beautiful setting is thanks to cinematographer Par M. Ekberg, who delivers a setting that acts as a character by itself, but also does what so many movies missed on, especially with horror, and that's have this secluded environment, but make it feel as open as well. A beautiful setting that feels threatening. This is a movie that utilizes some fantastic filmmaking to compare and contrast, give mixed emotions that keeps viewers on their toes. Mason Thames returns as Finn, who is still coping with the events that unfolded in the first film. His sister Gwen, played by Madeline McGraw, starts having vision of her mother up at Camp Alpine Lake when she was younger and is determined to follow the clues by becoming a camp counselor up at Alpine Lake. Followed by Ernesto, played by Miguel Mora, who has a crush on Gwen. And with young love, I'm sure Ernesto would have followed Gwen into battle with Freddy Krueger, Jason, Chucky, and the Grabber all at once just to have a shot with Gwen. But our hesitant Finn debates whether to have his fear hold him back from looking after his sister or face his fears and trauma. Finn ends up following his sister to Alpine Lake as well. Finn ends up going with his sister and Ernesto to Alpine Lake, under the ownership of Mondo, played by Damien Bayer, who has faced tragedy before as well, with kids that have gone missing from his camp. Now, across the board, the performances are all solid here, as we are to expect from our returning characters, but even more so our new characters, especially with Mondo and Mustang, played by Ariana Reeves, who is almost an anchor of the movie, or representation of mental and physical strength. And our director, Derrickson, knows this, since Mustang is sporting a cowboy hat and is always a straight-faced character. This adds a good balance between Mondo and Mustang, in which Mondo has the faith-driven strength of religion, and Mustang is a mental or in some way a physical strength. This adds a new level of engagement that almost feels like a safety blanket, with the idea that they really want to help these characters and have a relatable stake, since every character here has bonded over tragedy. We feel for these characters and what their outcome is going to be. We have true stakes because we have true stakes in our characters. And even though a familiar idea from Nightmare on Elm Street that we have seen before, it's a new feeling we haven't gotten from the formula before. Black Phone 2 again brings back our writer-director Scott Derrickson, who really has to pivot in different directions here to make this Nightmare on Elm Street premise work. And he does so with so many smart elements that utilizes the environment. For example, when we have our grabber floating in between dream state to reality, we have a scene that seems as goofy of what our Freddy Krueger character would do, by our grabber character sporting cold, hellish-looking ice skates and a hockey stick. And our characters can see the skate marks in the ice to see where our grabber is coming from. But Derrickson uses fast cuts to heighten the stakes of multiple directions our grabber is going, so it's just not our grabber on a cold, wintry day just ice skating. We see some very impressive visuals given the environment. This is where it sucks us into this wide open environment but makes it feel intimate. Derrickson uses smart filmmaking here to bring us in to make this big scenic shot on this ice lake feel intimate. And what Derrickson does here to really amplify the stakes of the environment, he utilizes some outstanding lighting along with some brilliantly integrated red hues against a white snowy background to signify evil against vulnerability, or good versus evil, if you will. A blend of what Gwen is facing of a dream reality and actual reality that our characters are stuck in. What's refreshing about Black Phone 2 is that we don't have these characters do stupid things, except running from an unseen killer on a frozen lake. But what the movie does do is justify it with mystery, and at times with almost a hard to believe and too easily believed story that seems to be taken in by our character with little doubt. And that can come with a little bit of an eye roll, but the characters are so engaging, it doesn't really matter. But the ideas it presents at the cost of pacing lingers in one's mind when it's happening. The Black Phone 2 does go into some lore of our grabber that we can almost sense that if they are to make another film, it will be a prequel, because the film just merely gives us clips that make us want more, or give us just a mere glimpse of what our background of our grabber killer is. But here, Derrickson utilizes these clips not to bog down the movie, but give us just enough to satisfy and tease at something bigger. Black Phone 2 was a pleasant surprise on both style and entertainment that doesn't surpass the original, but has just the right touch to please fans of the original, or even stand out on its own for first-timers. The performances are taken up a notch, the look is taken up a notch, but the idea of it stays linear, and at times when it banks on this entire premise, it can feel too familiar. But our director, Derrickson, does his best on a sequel that nobody thought would be a sequel. The Black Phone 2 was a pleasant surprise. I'm giving the Black Phone 2 3 stars. This Amazon Prime exclusive explores the life and legacy of the iconic funny man John Candy, who tragically died of a heart attack in 1994 at the young age of 43. In John Candy, I Like Me.
I can't tell you what was right about John Candy or what was wrong, but he was my friend, and I don't want to cry, but when I see him, when you see his face, I mean...
Who are you?
I'm a Mog. Half man, half dog.
Gus Polinski, Polka King of the Midwest.
Del Griffith, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
This is a lovable guy. This is a guy who, the minute you see his face, you're gonna smile.
He was amazingly funny.
Thank you.
He was one of the top performers out of all of them.
Guess my secret to acting would be I pretend real hard.
Even though John did distinctly different characters, John was always there.
He was so gentlemanly and so Canadian.
Nobody had bigger expectations for himself than John.
And then all of a sudden, it kind of jumped to a different level.
I'd made winning my whole life. And when you make winning your whole life, you have to keep on winning.
You've been in more turkeys than a stuffing mix.
I think the weight of everything he was doing was just too much.
A hazard of this business is that it's very unhealthy for people pleasers.
You can't really do favors for people.
It's a bottomless cup of coffee.
If you go a whole lifetime eating your feelings, drinking your feelings, smoking your nerves, it shows up.
You know, there's some things that are just painful. That's it. And you can't make them not painful.
Hollywood's still reacting to the shocking news.
John Candy is dead at the age of 43.
But it's the face you put on the world that defines who you are.
He lived his life very much like the movies. He was the child that made everyone happy. And he was the adult that did that.
You know, I remember John caring when not a lot of people did.
Every time you go away,
This is no meager life we reflect on today.
you take a piece of
This is as full a life as any human can live.
Hi, Daddy. Hi, Jennifer. How you doing?
Magnificent of visage, eyes and frame, a titan of a gentle, golden man.
Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me.
Okay, this is a type of film or documentary that's hard to review. It's between heart and skill, where the main topic at hand is one that fans of John Candy will hold close to their heart. The stories being told, the clips of his movies, the clips of home video footage, along with his past co-stars going on camera just to see the reactions of his passing. This is something that takes hold of your heart, those familiar with John Candy or grew up with John Candy. But on the other hand, I have to look on how John Candy's story is being told from a documentary level of filmmaking. There is no question of the love for John Candy, and there's no question that John Candy helped shape my love of movies. And in full disclosure, to me, there's no such thing as a bad John Candy movie, because they all made me feel good. Even if it's just to see the on-screen likability of Candy, it was always a joy to see him pop up on a movie theater screen. But here's the truth to John Candy, I Like Me, is that our director Colin Hanks banks on the nostalgic emotional feel, and at times it doesn't feel he's going far enough. And he just circles back to repetitiveness. I didn't get a feeling of being a looking glass into Candy's life. But at the same time, in complete fairness, most of the stories being told, I already knew about. Those that know the name, liked his movies, and never looked into behind the scenes of his movies or life might find this documentary refreshing. But when it comes to our documentarian, Hank seems to have trouble organizing these reviews, where by the time we reach the last hour to 45 minutes, it feels like we've circled back to a repeat of the opening topics, where it feels like there is no rhyme or reason to the direction he wants to go, but rather just a slideshow of John Candy movie clips. And this is Colin Hanks' challenge that I truly think is a misstep, is that he slightly hovers around Candy's addiction without crossing any lines, and just merely bringing up the topic of him bearing the weight of being a people pleaser. Hanks doesn't dig deep enough into the personal aspects as we do celebrity interviews and positive stories of Candy. We can tell that Hanks doesn't want to ruin the reputation of Candy, thinking it might not be received very well, and I get that. It's admirable, but also these stories of struggle for a man that has touched so many lives on screen and off screen has a tremendous motivational impact, and for some, a relatability factor to encourage others to want to do better. We can't just have sunshine and rainbows. We tell stories to improve the true courage of struggle, the true courage of wanting to do better in one's life. There's always tragedy behind it, and that's what pushes others to look upon ourselves to do better. And there are a lot of people from the past and present in the world that we see struggle that makes us want to do better. We want to have these people do better. This is where the movie, I think, really does miss, is having a thesis around what the legacy of Candy meant to people. Maybe have audience reactions of normal people come on and tell us their experience with Candy, and having this movie act as a catapult to what he stood for. Yes, he faced tragedy, he faced addiction, but he was more than just the addiction. This was a vehicle to really catapult this movie into telling a message to generations. This is how you can do better, because this is a guy that wanted better from us. That's how you keep his memory alive. We love the fact that we get to see clips of Candy, go down memory lane with Candy. I get all that, but this is a movie that could have been more to tell a bigger message. This is where the story of Candy here misses when it comes to the balance of negativity and the special moments Candy brought to the table, where both are important to why this man was so impactful to many lives. We spend a lot of time in this documentary with behind the scenes of his memorable movies and memories that his co-stars had with him, that we never connect the dots to where was Candy's mind at this point of his life. We don't connect the dots in a clear light to follow the journey. What we really needed to take this movie over the edge is more inclusion of non-film footage, where it seems to be extremely light here. And if it's a case where Hanks didn't have access to all the footage, I get it. But this is where the film should have leaned into a shorter runtime to have it feel balanced out when it comes to real footage versus celebrity interviews versus movie footage, where we feel a better balance of understanding for those that didn't grow up with Candy to understand the man in a proper balance of storytelling. Holistically, I think the whole here is we're missing intimacy from the way Hanks is telling Candy's tale. This is a documentary that should match what Candy was all about, to helping others, showing humility, and the example he unintentionally had, which is wearing his emotions on his sleeve, from eating to alcohol to smoking, whatever it may be, to cope with the weight of not feeling he's doing enough. He's not good enough. But with that said, even though most of the stories being told from behind the scenes were already known by me, they are still entertaining stories to make me smile, including with the Home Alone story, where his scenes were shot in 24 hours with a lot of improvisation from Catherine O'Hara, or scenes that are inserted that make you cry, like the scene where a highway was shut down for Candy's funeral. In Hollywood, we have a handful of celebrities that we can truly feel their impact and the impact of their loss out of this world that changed our lives, with Robin Williams being another one. If there is anything to take away from this film, is the fact that celebrities that show humility of status, being human over ego, giving back on an emotional level versus financial level, these are the celebrities that stay not just in memory, but create a legacy and set an example. Comedians that carry the importance of happiness of others before their own mental or physical health are the true Hollywood heroes. Comedians have a tendency to have a big impact on people's lives because they grew up with tragedy, or they grew up wanting to make people happy. But at times, this can lead to different types of tragedy when they can't give us that feeling anymore. And that's a tragedy to the world. And this almost leads to a selfish tragedy from us, the viewer, the fans, where we look upon comedians like Robin Williams or John Candy, and we think, I wish they were still here to give me that feeling again. But this is where the tragedy in comedians really hit home. They set an expectation for themselves to make others happy. So in a way, I understand the concept of this movie, of what it's trying to do is remind us how and when they made us happy. But at the same time, we recognize that comedians hold a big weight. The true comedians that want to bring happiness and laughter to the world, they hold a bigger weight than what we realize. And the film does a good job on bringing those moments. But the film, by doing so, is also a reminder of the weight Candy had on himself. It's a reminder of the lengths he went through to make people happy, to make people laugh. This isn't a bad documentary for the main fact it made me feel. And it's going to make thousands of people feel for John Candy. I Like Me reminds us of the good times, the feelings, and it's not in the filmmaking. It's anytime Candy is on screen in this documentary. John Candy, I Like Me is an emotional trip down memory lane that will make you laugh, cry, and as the credits roll, make the world say, God, I miss that man. This is a film that I wish had the intent to tell the story for later generations and the bigger impact and clarity for generations to come of who John Candy was on a deeper level, and not necessarily for those that knew him through a theater screen or working on set. I am torn with this movie. I'm torn with this review, so I'm going to do something a little bit different. And I'm giving John Candy, I Like Me 2 stars for the filmmaking and 4 stars for the feels. So let's just meet in the middle at 2.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.